Alright, drafters, Wizards have just made a big announcement, and for better or worse, it's going to change how drafts work. Draft boosters and set boosters are going to be no more come February when we'll have Murders at Karlov Manor, and in place we're going to be getting play boosters, which are an amalgamation of the two. So they're taking set boosters and draft boosters, are getting rid of both of them, and instead of that, we're just going to have these play boosters instead. Some people are out there in up in arms about this potential change, and it is understandable, but it always happens when something new comes to Magic the Gathering. I definitely have some concerns, but I acknowledge some of that comes from this fear of change that we all have. We don't like the way things change. We like the way things used to be. We've got this rose-tinted glasses thing going on, but this is a very big change and there's some legitimate concerns to be had. So I'm making this video and I'm going to go over the changes, what they mean, the positives, negatives, the unknowns, the things that we're still need to find out, and just have a bit of a chance to have a look at what's actually going on. First of all, we need to look at what play boosters actually are. And Maro has released an article. I'll link it in the comments down below, and I'll link it in the video description as well so you can see it. It's got a lot of information in, and he's gone through kind of what they mean there. We're all used to draft boosters, which are 15 card packs with usually 10 commons, 3 uncommons, a rare, and a basic land slash a dual land of some sort from the set. Sometimes one of the commons is replaced by a foil, which could be a common, an uncommon, or a rare, or even a basic land. And we've also had set boosters for quite a while now. They're a bit more complex. They've only got 12 cards that can contain multiple rares, that can contain rare cards that aren't in the main set that you can't usually find in draft boosters, like the commander deck ones and things like that. And they've also got the list section in 1 and 4 boosters as well. Set boosters aren't meant for playing limited with, and that's because they've only got 12 cards, and the commons and uncommons often come in as a group, so you'll get a load of red cards or a load of black cards and things like that. So they're just not intended for limited play. Play boosters, these new ones, are going to contain 14 cards, which is 1 less than a normal draft booster, and 2 more than set boosters. And the makeup's a little bit complex, so you can see the infographic on the screen now. 6 of them will be guaranteed common cards. 3 of them will be guaranteed uncommons, and 1 will be guaranteed basic or common land. And then we've also got 1 guaranteed rare and mythic. So this is a lot like a draft booster so far. The only difference really is, so far, that we've only got 6 commons instead of the 10. And this means we've got 3 other slots to look at. One of the remaining slots is going to be a card from the list 1/8 of the time. This includes the upcoming special guest slot, which has been announced, where they're going to bring reprints, and they're going to do reprints, but in the style of the current set. So I think there was I can't remember, Rafik of the Many, I think it was in Streets of New Capenna in the list, but it had the style of the New Capenna, I can't remember the name of the booster fund from that, but it's been done before, and they're going to be coming in Lost Caverns of Ixalan, and in Karlov Manor, they're going to be found in draft boosters as well. So in Lost Caverns of Ixalan, they can only be found in set boosters. When we come to Murders of Karlov Manor, they're going to be included in draft boosters as well, and they're going to be part of the draft product sometimes in this list slot. Like I say, this is only going to be in 1/8 of the boosters. This slot's going to be a list card in 1/8 of the boosters. The rest, 7 out of 8 at times, is going to be another common. So it's a little bit like a kind of a bonus foil slot, and we'll come to foils just now, actually. The last 2 slots are wild card slots, and one of them will be non-foil, one of them will be foil. So this means you're going to have a guaranteed foil in every single draft booster going forward, which is neither a good thing or a bad thing. Foils are a bit contentious, but foils are usually worth a little bit more than normal cards, so that's pretty cool. This wild card, it says it can be anything from the main set, so that implies that it can't be a commander card slot or a list slot or anything like that. Can't be one of these wacky ones which aren't in the main set, but we don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if that ends up being changed. I'm going to treat these for now like we have the normal foil that we have that normally replaces a common, and it can be common, uncommon, or rare, or mythic. And we're going to treat it like we've got this foil slot, and we're going to have the foil slot in every single pack instead of 1 and 3 like it currently is, and we're going to have a similar slot which is going to be non-foil. Now you get your guaranteed rare. You're always going to get that 1 rare in the rare slot. You can also get a rare slot in the list, and you can get 2 more rares in the wildcard slots, which means a single draft booster that you're going to be playing limited with can come with up to 4 rares, which sounds ridiculous, and it would be if all of your draft boosters had 4 rares in them, especially in a 14 card booster. However, if we're going to say that the chance of getting a rare in the wildcard slot is the same as it is in the foil slot that we currently have, That means you're going to get a foil rare in just less than 1 in 20 packs, or just less than 5% of packs. So you're not going to get rare cards in that slot a huge amount. Similarly, you're only going to get a rare or mythic in the list slot. I think it's about 2.5% of the time, so that's not going to be very common either. So a little bit of quick math says 80% of boosters roughly 80% of boosters are just still going to have 1 rare in them. And if my maths is right and my assumptions are correct, which they might not be, this ridiculous 4 rare booster pack is going to happen less than 1 in 3,000 boosters. So it's not really going to happen very often, and most boosters are still just going to have 1 rare. It does mean that sometimes you'll be playing against somebody in a sealed event and they're going to have a whole bunch of rares open and you're just going to have your normal 6, but it is the way it goes. I don't think that extra rares are going to make a massive difference, but they are going to be something in there. And it isn't just the rares we've got to think about here. You're going to get more uncommons as well, and uncommons are usually quite a bit more powerful than the commons, so that's going to change how things are a little bit. Literally, as I finished recording the video, I saw some information about the chance of getting multiple rares in a draft booster, or in one of these play boosters, sorry. It's going to take a while to get used to it. I think it was on Bloggertog, Maro's blog, so the chance of getting 2 rares in a pack is 37%, the chance of getting 3 rares is 4%, and the chance of getting 4 rares is less than 1%, and a bit of quick maths means that that is going to be about 58% chance of getting 1 rare in a pack as well. So a lot more chance of getting multiple rares in a pack than I thought, and that is going to affect things a little bit as well. Wizards have given us some reasons why, and I think they are worth looking into. First of all, they've recognised that it's quite complex for stores and players to have 3 or even more types of boosters. You've got draft, set, collector normally. Sometimes you have jumpstart boosters on a set. They've had theme boosters in the past. They've got all these different types of boosters. Combining draft and set boosters makes it a lot simpler. Draft and set boosters are probably the ones that are open most. Apparently set boosters are open a whole lot more than draft boosters. So combining these into one makes it a lot simpler for players, and also easier for stores to stock on the shelves. They said something about shops sometimes not getting draft boosters because they just wanted the set boosters and they just couldn't really put both on the shelves. And because the set boosters were more popular, then they didn't buy in draft boosters, which meant that they couldn't hold drafts. And we want stores to be able to hold drafts. So I think that is a positive for drafters in a way. The article also mentioned in a similar vein that the draft boosters are becoming less and less popular as set boosters are open more. And this means that they had a genuine worry that draft boosters were going to just stop being made because stores weren't wanting to buy them, and it would be a very much a kind of go extinct. And I think that does sound a little bit hyperbolic, but I totally understand it and I believe it. It sounds ridiculous. How could draft boosters go extinct, as it were? But I think if what they're saying is true and they've got the data to go behind it, and I do believe them on this, then it is a risk that they were looking to do, and they want to keep paper drafts going. I want to keep paper drafts going. I'm assuming if you're watching this video, you want to keep paper drafts going. And I think this is something which it is a response to an effect they were seeing, and they're acting on it now. I'm still not super happy with the decision, but in kind of in a ridiculous way, if it saves paper drafts, that makes me more for it. There are some other positives around. First of all, the EV of packs is potentially going to go up. You're going to get more rares in a pack, so you're going to get more of those expensive cards. Every pack's going to have a foil in, so you're going to get more foils. Foils are worth a bit more, not as much as they used to be. And I suppose if you're going to get a foil in every single pack, then it's not going to be as special, but they do exist, and some people like that, and it's not going to really change things too much either way. Another potential positive is that in Limited you're going to get to play with more rares and mythics. I know I said that they're not going to be changing too much, but you are going to have more rare and mythics in the end. It's going to be a bit like March of the Machine, where you could get quite a few rares in your pack, and there was a lot of bombs because you have the battle slot could have a rare, the foil slot could have a rare, the normal rare slot was there, and then you could also get rares in the battle slot and the bonus sheet. I can't remember if I said which. I think I said battle slot already. So that was one way you can get a lot of these cards, and you would get a lot of uncommons as well. And I think the uncommons are going to be making a big difference here as well. So they will be more powerful, and that could be a good thing. That could be a bad thing. I quite liked the double feature drafts. I think there was some problems with the set, which a lot of people have gone through, but I think the playability of it was cool. It was a nice, powerful way to play the format. You were getting 2 rares and 4 uncommons in every single pack, and that means you can build some really powerful decks. I think there is a bit of a risk that it ends up kind of like this ice cream for breakfast or ice cream for dinner situation, where you're getting something which is really good when you do it occasionally, but when you get it all the time, it becomes less cool. I've heard people say similar things about Vintage Cube, where if you had Vintage Cube the whole year round, then it would be less cool. But because you only get it in a few weeks every year, then when it comes around, you're really looking forward to it, and it's something cool to have. So that is there as well. Now, we did talk about the EV going up, and that's a good thing in the boosters. The other side is that the boosters are going to be more expensive. The boosters are going to be priced around the same price that set boosters currently are. And that means that the boosters are going to be around 30% more expensive, which means your drafts are going to be around 30% more expensive. The drafts around me are usually costing about £16. You would get roughly one booster in the prize pool per person. And I'm looking at now a situation where if they keep the drafts the same price, as it were, and they're going to increase proportionally, then I'm going to be looking at more than £20 for a draft probably in the not so distant future, and that is really bad. And one of the big reasons people don't draft very much already is because it's expensive to play. They can just go into a store and play Commander for free, but you're going to have to pay £20 for the draft every time you do it, and that's a lot of money. It already is a lot of money. It's not too long ago that I was paying £12 for a draft, because we've just had a recent price increase in Magic stuff as well. I know everything's going up, but we've already had one big price increase, and this is just increasing the price again, and it is very, very frustrating. Going up by 30%, almost a third or so, it might even be a third, but going up this much per pack. Remember, a set box only has 30 packs in, and a draft box has 36. So if you're looking at box prices, it changes there. But the set boosters are significantly more expensive than draft boosters, and this is really going to change things. I'm lucky enough to not be too broke, too skint all the time, and I've got a decent job and things like that. I don't need to worry too much about what I'm spending on drafting. But even I'm going to start questioning if paying £20 every time I want to draft is going to be worth it. And I think that's a really, really tough pill to swallow, and the biggest negative that we've got going on here. Apart from cost, there are other negatives, of course. There's only 14 cards in a pack, which means it's more difficult, not impossible, but it's slightly more difficult to have a Chaos draft where you're mixing them in with other sets, because older sets have 15 cards in a pack, the newer ones have 14. It's not like a huge deal, but it is a bit frustrating, and it's not going to gel quite as well, and there might be some confusion when you're doing the draft where some packs will end up where you only get certain cards, and it's a little bit weird there. Another one is the list slot that's going to be there. I don't know how curated it's going to be. I was working on a video on the bonus sheets and kind of reviewing the previous bonus sheets, which I probably still will do, but I'm going to have to change the angle of it a little bit. Basically, the bonus sheets have been a bit mixed. Some of them are really good, some of them are really bad, and do run the risk here that if the list isn't properly curated, it's going to be taking the worst things from those bonus sheets. And that's not going to be great. Like I said, the bonus sheets have had a bit of a mixed response. Some of them have been better than others, and there's viewpoints on that. I'm going to do a full video on that, like I say, but I'm not convinced that the list slot's going to be a really good way to go down here, and that will affect the drafts. Also, I did say a positive is that you're going to get these more powerful draft formats, but not everybody likes them super powerful. Not everybody likes them being full of rares. The extra rares can make the formats less enjoyable. We don't know yet, though. Apparently, it's been tested and it came up favourably in the internal testing in Wizards, but we'll have to wait and see how that one turns out. There's also a lot of missing information, things we don't know yet. This is the very first announcement. There's going to be probably some discussion about it over the next few months before it comes in February. One thing we don't know is the breakdown of rarities and how that's going to look in sets. So the article mentions that one of the reasons they were doing this, and one of the reasons they were cutting down on the cards, was people complained that there was so many cards in sets which didn't see play, even cards that weren't played in limited. And this is going to be mainly the worst commons in the set. The worst 12 to 20 commons in the set might get cut. I wouldn't be surprised if I saw an uptick in the number of rares in the set. This could have an impact on things like set completion on Arena, people who want to go out and buy a full set of cards from the set. We've already seen them putting more rares in sets. It used to be, I think you would get 16 mythics a set. Now you usually get 20. So, it makes things more difficult to complete that way. And although you're going to get more rares in your packs, I think they'll probably up the number of rares in the set, because it keeps the variety that much higher, and that's going to be something that things are going to have to keep an eye on. Another in editing edition here, we have a little bit of information on the distribution of commons and uncommons. So traditionally, draft boosters have had 101 commons and 80 uncommons for a little while now. That's going to change to 81 commons and 100 uncommons, which is essentially shifting 20 of the cards in the set from common to uncommon. And this doesn't mean that uncommons are now more common than commons, because you still get about 3 or 4 uncommons in a pack, and then 6, 7, 8 or so commons. So you're going to get more commons in a pack, so they still will be more common, just there'll be a greater variety among the uncommons. We've talked a lot about paper, and for Arena, things are also going to change. They did say they're going to keep the price of drafts on Arena the same, so it's still going to be 10,000 gold for a Premier draft and all that stuff. There's no changes there. We don't know how the curation is going to go on, and it might think like, well, of course they're just going to do the same curation as do in paper, but something I've kind of realized for a while, and it doesn't always get, well, I don't think I've ever heard anybody talk about it, is there's no file cards on Arena. You don't get file cards in your packs on Arena, so there's already that discrepancy between your paper drafts and your Arena drafts. Now, we've got the same thing here. We're going to have the foil slot. Are we going to have that foil slot? Are we going to have 2 wildcard slots on Arena? Maybe, maybe not. I can see them doing it. But what about the list slot? Are all of the cards that are in the list going to be going on to Arena? Is that going to change the way drafts are? Are we going to have some cards that can show up in a paper draft that you can play with, because you can play with the cards from that list slot in the paper, that won't show up on Arena because they can't program them in for some reason? Are they going to restrict the list to cards that are only on Arena? We don't know, and this is one of those questions that we still need to find out about as well. So what are my thoughts on this, if you haven't guessed already? I think, in a word, I'm hesitant. I really don't like the price increase. I think that's a huge, huge problem. I think it's far and away the biggest downside. The rest is definitely clouded by this. I don't like change feeling. I think a lot of my concerns are legitimate. I think others are probably blown out of proportion. It's not, the sky isn't falling here. We're not losing paper drafts. If anything, in the long term, this might save paper drafts, and that's a good thing. But if my concerns are legitimate, other people's are also probably legitimate, and it's a really tough one. I think the simplification of the offer in the stores is probably a bigger bonus than you would think. I think that separation of draft and set boosters was problematic. If it was up to me, I would go back to a world where we never had set boosters. I was just draft boosters and collector boosters if that's your thing. But I think when we didn't have set boosters, people were okay with just draft boosters, but now I've seen the set boosters, that's what they're like. I think it's impacted draft badly, and I think that's a bit of a shame. But yeah, it's a really complex issue, and there's a lot of things going on. There's still a lot of time to digest. We're not really there yet, and I'm gonna have my thoughts are gonna change as time goes on, and I won't really have final thoughts until it comes along. But what are your thoughts at this point? There's a lot of thinking about. Like I say, it's really complex. Discussion is good. Keep the discussion nice and civil in the comments, but I would love to hear what they are. I'm still quite a small channel. I don't get a huge amount of views, so I do usually have the ability to respond to all the comments that are there. So feel free to hit us up in the comments, and we'll have a bit of a chat, see what things are like. You can always hit us up at @PLD_MTG on Twitter. If you have enjoyed the video, do think about subscribing. We've got a lot of limited content coming up over the next 4 months. We've got Lost Caverns of Ixalan, Khans of Tarkir Arena. We've got Ravnica Remastered coming in paper in January, and then Murders Karlov Manor in February. So 4 sets in 4 months from a limited point of view. Going to be doing set reviews, going to be doing achievement lists, going to be doing all that good stuff, and just the normal streamer events and things like that as well. So you've got a lot of fun stuff coming up. So you don't want to miss any of that, so make sure you do subscribe. If you have enjoyed the video, just do all that stuff. Really, really appreciate you watching. Thanks for everything so far, and I'll catch you again soon. Bye.